Hello and welcome back, everybody. My name is Nothrar, and welcome back to my tips and tricks guide from a Final Fantasy XIV veteran video series here. In the last video, I talked about how we were going to be going into our system settings, system configuration here, to talk more about the settings that we have here. We're not going to be going in depth as much as the last video with this. I kind of just want to highlight a couple of things here. We're going to go through this extremely quickly, and then we're going to be going into the new player experience proper. Now, this is just going to be very quick, very much just a kind of just simplified overview of what you can see in system configuration. I just don't want this video to go on as long as the last one. This is kind of the main reason why I'm doing this. And I also want to kind of go ahead and get us started on actual gameplay moving forward, so that I can actually kind of show you a lot more of tips and tricks rather than just giving you a big overview on the settings. So here we go, guys. When you go into system configuration, you're going to default into your display settings. From here, you can change the resolution, you can change the UI scaling, you can change default UI size, you can change which display you're using, etc., etc. Character lighting, if you want to make your character a lot brighter, you can do it from here. And you also have full screen gamma mode correction as well. You have sound settings in here as well. So if you ever want to mess around with your sound settings, I will say, just for this one in particular, at the very top you have play sounds and window is not active. Typically speaking, I am the kind of person who does not want a bunch of sound to be coming through my headphones whenever I alt-tab. So this is a very good way to have certain sounds playing whenever you alt-tab that you may want to use. For example, when we go into crafting later on in this video series, system sounds is going to be a very important one because we are going to be adding a sound effect at the end of our crafting macro to let us know when our crafting is finished. With this enabled and system sounds being the only thing that you can hear in the background, you can only hear that sound effect happening when your craft is finished while you are alt-tabbed. So you can tab out, you can watch a YouTube video on another screen and not be looking at the current screen that you have, and then you can hear it, alt-tab back in Final Fantasy XIV, set up another craft really fast, alt-tab back out, etc., etc. Rinse, repeat, right? Graphic settings are different than display settings. This is how you'll change very specific things like the lighting, the quality, glare, edge smoothing, anything where you may want to add on like more effects and have the graphics just kind of pop a bit more is what you're going to find in graphics settings. It also, you can change it over from standard to 4K for the UI resolution on the settings that you have if you have a 4K monitor, so that they just come in a bit more crisper if you want to do that here. Mouse settings, pretty self-explanatory. If you have mouse and keyboard, this allows you to just change a couple of things about the mouse cursor. You can change how the cursor actually looks. You can change the camera sensitivity. Things of that nature. Gamepad settings, same thing. Just allows you to kind of mess around with some of the things, enabling vibration, enabling auto run. You can do text pasting, which is an honorable mention. You can just hit L1 plus R1 whenever you're looking at an item. Or excuse me, you can select that you're copying an item name from an item, and then you can then paste it with L1 plus R1 to make it to where you can copy and paste into the market board is kind of the big reason why you would do this, or you can copy and paste an item into a chat window, things of that nature. Theme settings, if you want to change the way that the background looks for your menus and things like that, you can do that here. For some reason it doesn't do that on mine, and I could not tell you why. Oh, you have to log in again for these changes to take effect. Okay, so you can change your theme from here. I just like sticking with the dark theme. It's pretty simplistic and things like that. Classic is a very good one because it just kind of gives you like that old Final Fantasy feel if you really want to go for that one. I was using that one for a while, but then I kind of switched over to dark because, why not? Other settings, screenshot format, where your screenshots go, auto AFK settings. Whenever your character is idle for a long period of time, it will set it into AFK, and then you can do things like switching it to an idling camera, which kind of just works almost like a background screensaver. You can have display limits for the amount of things that you have on screen if your things are lagging a bit too much. Cutscene audio. You can change the cutscene audio to a different language from here. Just a lot of just other things where they didn't really know where to put them in your settings option. And then finally, last but definitely not least, is accessibility settings. If you have any kind of color blindness, any kind of issue with seeing things like that, you can enable things with issues with hearing things rather. You can enable visual alerts, and you can change the color filtering that you have based on what kind of color blindness that you have, and then you can adjust it kind of accordingly. You can make it more extreme, things of that nature. This is what your accessibility, this is where you can find the accessibility settings. So if you're having trouble with any kind of content where you're just having issues upon issues trying to see things, this will help you out a lot. I usually just leave it on default because I do not have an accessibility issue. So that's kind of where we're at with that. So I know this is kind of just a brief overview of this, but honestly that's kind of just it. There's not really a whole lot to really talk about with system settings. It's kind of just you messing around with it. One thing I do want to go ahead and talk about is I have switched the character that we are using over to Derplander Lives. The main reason why I'm doing this is because there has been a couple of issues with the other character. I'm not just going to go into exactly what they were, but unfortunately I will not be using that character from now on. So we're just moving over to this character in particular. Nothing has changed, same exact settings, just did default and just went in with Derplander Lives, and just went in through. A couple things may look a little bit different, but that's fine. We didn't really have a whole lot changed in the first place. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to now talk about the new player experience. And the first thing that you're going to do anytime that you go into whichever city that you start in, you will always have an NPC that you have to talk to before you can continue forward. Now, you may be looking in this area and you may have been asking the same question that a lot of people have been asking in the towns of this area, is it looks pretty dead here. There's just a couple of guys that are standing here, and you know, there's a guy up there that you can see off in the distance. Can't really target him though. Nope, there we go. Now we can target him. And there's just not a whole lot of people that are out here, right? Seems kind of dead for an MMO that seems like it has a lot of active players in it and whatnot, right? Well, the reason for that is because until you complete a couple of quests, you are kind of placed into a separate instance away from other players until you progress forward. The reason for this is to combat botting attempts. So they're making it just a little bit harder for bots to kind of come in and post their gibberish into cities and whatnot. Botting is not a huge issue in Final Fantasy XIV, but it is still something that you will encounter. This is just a measure that was put in place to kind of just make it just that little bit extra harder to deter bots from kind of showing up in cities and whatnot and just spamming out a bunch of gibberish that nobody wants to see, right? So you're always going to be talking to an NPC when you start out, and they're always going to have a quest for you. Ours is Wymond, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to talk to him for the first time. You'll get a little help menu that's here that'll let you know that you are accepting a quest, and it'll kind of walk you through just a couple of things here. It says once you've initiated a quest, a prompt will appear detailing its objectives and rewards. Press the accept button in the lower left hand corner to add the quest to your list of current duties. And you can see over here in the quest window that we're going to get 400 experience, 103 gil, which is basically just money in this game, and a short description of what the quest is about. To be recognized as an adventurer in the city-state of Ul'dah, you must register yourself with the Adventurers Guild. Tis plain to anyone with eyes that you don't know your way around here. If I let you go wandering off down the nearest darkest alley, you're certain to get mugged or worse, and I don't want that on my conscience. So before you do anything else, I want you to head over to the quicksand and speak with Momodi. She's the master of the Adventurers Guild and can set you on the right path. And that's the camera panning to show us that that's where the Adventurers Guild is located. Just take those steps over yonder and pass through the double doors. You'll find her inside, and that's as much as you're getting for free. Good luck with the adventuring adventure. So we've just accepted our first quest. It lets us know that we have begun a quest. Use the duty list to help you complete your task. And now it's going to explain to us what the duty list is. Now the duty list pops up over here on the right hand side here, just under our mini map. You can see that we have the quest coming to Ul'dah, and then the quest objective is to speak to Momodi. It has a little help window here that is up here in the top left hand corner. Upon accepting a quest, the current objective will appear under the quest title in the duty list on the right side of the screen. A maximum of 5 quests can be displayed at once. You can see that there's another page to this. If we hit R1, we can go ahead and we can move over to the second page. Selecting the title will open the quest in your journal, allowing you to review objectives and rewards. Well, what's your journal, that you may ask, since it doesn't really tell us what the journal is? Well, if you are on controller, if you hit start and then you move over to duty, it's right there. Journal is just your quest journal. Now there's a lot of things that you can see in the quest journal. As you can see, I can hit square, and then it has a plethora of things for us to sit here and look at. We have a bunch of quests that we can do that are all tied to main story quests and things like that. We have Chronicles of New Era Primals, Side Story, Amalja, Dwarf, Disciples of War Quest. Just all these types of quests that we can do here. And we'll be talking about these as we go forward. You don't really need to worry too much about the journal at this point in time. Typically, a lot of people will just use the duty list on the right-hand side of the screen. But if you're a person who wants to kind of just take a look at everything that you've kind of done, or if you ever need a refresher on just a quest that you've done and stuff like that, it will pop up in your journal, and you can go there and you can review all of those quests in order, right? So we have a quest objective now, and now we are free to move around and do kind of almost everything that we want to do. We can now walk up these stairs here, and we can go into the Adventurers Guild. You're always going to be joining an Adventurers Guild whenever you first enter into a town. Regardless of whatever town that you go to, you will be joining an Adventurers Guild of some kind. This is your story at the beginning. You're just an adventurer, so now you're going to be joining an Adventurers Guild to kind of put your skills to use. You can see that there's a lot of people that are in here, lots of different people from all different walks of life, it looks like, and this is just a big bar area. We've got a tavern going on over here, basically. Collecting rewards. Complete a quest by speaking to the NPC with a check mark displayed above his or her head. Completing quests will earn you a variety of rewards, from items and gil to experience points. This is just letting you know that you can see over Modi's head here that there is a quest icon. The one that was over our friend Wymon's head outside was a gold one that had an exclamation mark in it. But to complete a quest, it's going to turn green and have a check mark inside of it instead. That lets you know that this quest is going to be completed once you talk to this NPC. So we'll go ahead and we'll select her, and we'll go ahead and we'll talk to Momodi. Why, hello there. Who might you be? If you're looking to join the Adventurers Guild, you've come to the right place. Name's Momodi, and I own this fine establishment, if it please you. I also manage the Adventurers Guild here in Ul'dah, so you might say that looking after green adventurers like yourself is my vocation. And lucky for you that it is. Without someone like me to steer you right, you'd soon find yourself out in the middle of nowhere, caught up in business you don't understand. Like our conflict with the Amalja, for example. They've been plaguing the Sultanate for nigh on forever now. Then there's the Garlean Empire. None can say for sure what they're plotting these days, only that they are. Aye, the people drink and make merry, but underneath it all, there's worry. Worry and a lingering feeling of loss. And little wonder, it's scarce been 5 years since the Lesser Moon cracked open like a giant egg, releasing an abomination intent on turning the realm into an 8th hell. So much was lost in the blink of an eye. 'Twas like the end of the world had come at last. But then things begin to get foggy. Everyone's got their own version of what happened next. Some of them 2 or 3. You'd think people would remember something like that, but the fact is, they don't. Nobody does. There's one thing the survivors agree on. The part played by a band of adventurers who laid down their lives for a realm that wasn't their own. They fought valiantly, and like so many others, they never returned. Deeds worth remembering, I'm sure you'll agree. It's just a shame our recollections of those brave heroes are as jumbled as those of the calamity itself. Whenever we try to call their faces to mind, it's like they're standing between us and the midday sun, permanently silhouetted. I'll bet that sounds poetic to you, doesn't it? Well, it's not. It's bloody and infuriating. But even if we can't remember them, we'll not let them be forgotten. And so we call them the Warriors of Light. And they'll forever stand as a shining example of what adventurers can achieve. That's why I welcome new arrivals like yourself to our fair city. All I ask is that you lend a helping hand and try to leave Ul'dah in a better state than you found her. If you can promise that, I'd be happy to let you join the guild. Alright then, a promise is a promise now. I'm counting on your help to put the past behind us. We need people working and spending and bickering like the old days. And a happy and prosperous Ul'dah means more business for the Quicksand too. Any road, let's make this official. Go ahead and write your name in the register. Neat as you can. Derplander lives. Well, ain't that a charming name? Just rolls off the tongue, it does. Alright, Mr. Lives. On behalf of the Adventurers Guild, I officially... Please, sir, be merciful. 12 is my witness. I swear to you all, bring your money. In the East, it is said that even a merciful god might be driven to vengeance if thrice blasphemed. Be grateful you were given a 4th chance to offend. You two, attend to this scum. Well, ain't that a sorry sight? Not an uncommon one, if I'm honest. Don't worry, though. If you work hard, I doubt you'll end up like him. Just the same, if you ever need a bit of advice about one thing or another, pay me a visit. Just don't go bothering me every time you stub your bloody toe, alright? Of course, I do enjoy hearing tell of a gentleman's woes with the women folk from time to time. Any road, welcome to Ul'dah, Derplander. Take a moment to catch your breath, and I'll teach you a little about our fair city. And now we've completed our first quest. This concludes the introductory game tutorial. You have taken the first step as an adventurer in the city of Ul'dah. Listen well to the wisdom of Modi Modi, and then go forth and discover the incredible adventures that await you. We have leveled up. We have learned a new skill because of this, and now we're going to transition into how you obtain skills in this game. Now, you're going to look at a skill list right off the front here, and you're going to see that there's not a lot of skills here. If you've ever seen anybody else play Final Fantasy XIV, you'll probably notice that they've had a lot of skills on their hotbar and a lot of different stuff that you can just kind of use, right? Well, the reason for that is because we are what is called a class. We are not a job, yes. So if we look at our character here, we are a level 2 gladiator. Now, the reason why we only have a certain amount of skills is because we max out at level 50 on all of our skills that we can obtain as a gladiator. We can still level to 80 as a gladiator, if we and so choose to do so. It's not what you're going to be doing. But at level 50 is when we max out all of our gladiator skills proper. You unlock a job at level 30, meaning that we're going to, because we are a gladiator, go from being a gladiator to a paladin. And once we unlock paladin, we unlock different skills to do our job better, because that's when we unlock our actual job as a paladin. You'll notice in the top left hand corner that there is a next main scenario quest that has popped up called Close to Home, and directly below it there is an exclamation mark that is in a orange circle that says Way of the Gladiator. There are two different types of quests that you should definitely be looking out for, and those are the main story quest, often shortened to MSQ quest, which is what you'll find in the top left-hand corner. And then directly below it is what is called your job quests, which is the Way of the Gladiators quest that you can see there. If we click on that in the top left-hand corner, or if we navigate to it by hitting the touchpad and then scrolling down, or hitting down on our D-pad to go to Way of the Gladiator, you can see that we can select that, and it shows us that Way of the Gladiator is located in Ul'dah, in the Gladiators Guild, which is where we'll be going soon enough. Just wanted to kind of briefly touch on that before we continue on. But I don't think we're going to be continuing on in this video proper. I just wanted to kind of go ahead and get a brief overview of the system configuration settings and get us started on our adventure. In the next video, we'll be discussing how you level up, how you do your story in the MSQ, things like that. And let me know in the comments, if you guys can, if you'd like for me to read through the text dialogue, go through every single MSQ quest. I'm hesitant to do so because that is what we are doing on our stream. If you want us to do more of a deep dive into the story and things like that, that's what you want to see in stream. But for starting out, if you would like for me to just kind of read through the dialogue and stuff like that for these early beginner on quests, that's something that I'm kind of willing to budge on as far as that goes, because there are some bits of dialogue in there where you're just kind of just like, oh, well, you know, you're still an adventurer, we're going to teach you a couple of things, right? But I think that's going to do it for today's video, guys. In the next video, we're going to touch on continuing through the MSQ. We're going to be showing off the different things that get introduced to us when we go through the MSQ, kind of the gameplay loop that you're going to be doing as you get to a new city and things like that. And we're going to be doing our job quests as well to show you kind of how those work, and kind of explain what the uses of those class quests, or excuse me, those job quests are. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. Hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day, and take